century heritage. Korea is serious about documentation and preservation.
A tour of Korean cultural heritage will become a legacy of your own.
Why not make your own Korean cultural heritage travel itinerary?
Isn't it fascinating?
drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% rate in April. Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million using its locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang.
President Lee Jae-myung delivered his first New Year's message to the public, pledging stronger support for regions outside the capital and addressing issues including workplace safety, as well as inter-Korean relations. He will host a New Year's reception at the Blue House State Guest House this afternoon. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited the family mausoleum, the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, on New Year's Day. Photos released showed him accompanied by his daughter Chue, marking her first public appearance at the palace, widely seen as a possible political signal related to leadership succession. Around 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured after a fire ripped through a bar in a ski resort in southern Switzerland. Foreign nationals were also at the venue when the fire broke out during New Year's celebrations in the early hours of Thursday. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We begin today with President Lee Jae-myung's New Year's message as he begins his first full year in office. Our top office correspondent Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
A new year often begins with resolutions. For President Lee Jae-myung, it's making 2026 a year where the whole nation can enjoy the fruits of Korea's economic growth.
올 한 해를 붉은 말처럼 힘차게 달리는 해로 대한민국 대도약의 원년으로 만들겠습니다. 대도약을 통한 성장의 과실은 특정 소수가 독식하는 것이 아니라 모두가 함께 나눌 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
President Lee began his New Year's address by thanking the public for helping restore stability after former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration and subsequent impeachment. He says the country must now move faster, but with a shift in mindset.
불평등과 격차가 성장을 가로막고 경쟁과 갈등이 격화되는 이 악순환 속에서 자원의 집중과 기회의 편중은 이제 성장의 디딤돌이 아니라 걸림돌이 되고 있습니다.
The president laid out 5 policy directions. First, more substantial and decisive support for regions away from the capital.
인재와 기술 양성을 위한 교육 투자, 삶의 질을 높여줄 광역 교통과 문화시설 투자, 여기에 관광 정책까지 하나로 잇는 집중 투자를 통해 지방주도 성장의 기반을 촘촘하게 실현해내겠습니다.
Second, the president called for an environment where young entrepreneurs can take risks and innovate, allowing startups and SMEs to thrive alongside big companies. On social policy, he stressed the need for safer workplaces through tougher penalties, noting that South Korea has the highest industrial accident death rate in the OECD. Turning to culture, which he described as a pillar of national competitiveness, President Lee pledged stronger support not only for pop culture, but for fine arts. On diplomacy and security, the administration will work toward peaceful coexistence on the Korean Peninsula.
페이스메이커로서 북미 대화를 적극 지원하고 남북 관계 복원을 거듭 모색할 것입니다.
The president's resolve was evident at his first official engagement of the year, a traditional visit to the Seoul National Cemetery. In the guest book, he wrote, "We will embark on the first year of a great national leap forward toward a society where we can all live well together." 송유진, Arirang News.
And this afternoon, President Lee Jae-myung will host a New Year's reception at the Blue House. Key figures from the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, as well as representatives from business, labor, and religious circles, are expected to attend. They include the Prime Minister, the National Assembly Speaker, and the heads of the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Court, and the National Election Commission. Cabinet ministers and the leadership of the ruling Democratic Party will also be present. The main opposition People Power Party has decided not to attend, likely due to ongoing political tensions over the establishment of a special tribunal for insurrection charges and allegations of illegal lobbying involving senior DP politicians. Meanwhile, the Bank of Korea Governor Lee Chang-yong says the nation's economy in 2026 is expected to grow by 1.8%. But without the IT sector, that figure drops to just 1.4%. Lee made the comments during his New Year's address on Friday and referred to a K-shaped recovery, where the difference between recovering sectors and those lagging behind continues to grow. Regarding South Korea's currency, the governor addressed the won trading in the 1,400 range against the US dollar. He said the valuation is disconnected from economic fundamentals, attributing the weakness partly to massive overseas investments by domestic residents. He urged a comprehensive review of how capital outflows affect the local market. Marking 2026, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited the family mausoleum, the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, on New Year's Day. He was with his daughter Chue, who was making her very first public appearance at the palace. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his family visited the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun on the first day of 2026. This, according to the state-run Korean Central News Agency on Friday. What's notable was that Kim's daughter Kim Ju-ae appeared publicly for the first time at a visit to the family mausoleum. The media did not directly mention Ju-ae's attendance, but the photos released showed Kim Jong-un, his wife Lee Seol-ju, and their daughter Ju-ae standing together in the very front row, with Ju-ae positioned at the center. They were accompanied by key party and government officials, and the KCNA reported that all visitors made a firm pledge to fulfill their responsibilities and duties at the forefront of the sacred cause of realizing the eternal prosperity and development of the regime and its people's well-being. With the 9th Party Congress expected to be held in January, many are seeing Chue's appearance at the palace for the first time as a political signal related to leadership succession. The Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, where the bodies of past leaders Kim Jong-un's late father Kim Jong-il and grandfather Kim Il-sung are enshrined, is a symbol in North Korea of the legitimacy of the regime. Since coming to power in 2012, Kim Jong-un has visited the palace on New Year's Day almost every year, but he skipped the visit in 2018 as well as in 2024 and 2025, making the visit alongside his daughter all the more surprising. The KCNA also reported that on the same day, Kim Jong-un met with students who were to perform in a Lunar New Year celebration and took photos with them, apparently highlighting his image of valuing future generations. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Seoul and Beijing's foreign ministers spoke on the phone on the final day of 2025 for high-level coordination on President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to China at the start of January. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
South Korea and China's top diplomats held a phone call for concrete and substantive outcomes ahead of President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to Beijing. Seoul's foreign ministry says Minister Cho Hyun talked on the telephone on the last day of the year with his counterpart Wang Yi, focusing on the top-level trip from January 4th to January 7th. The two ministers reviewed the trajectory of South Korea-China relations over the past year and agreed to maintain close communication to ensure the success of the visit, which will mark the first state-level summit diplomacy of the new year for both countries. Both sides stressed the need to deliver substantive results that can be tangibly felt by the public and consolidate the momentum towards fully restoring Seoul and Beijing's strategic cooperative partnership. Cho and Wang also exchanged views on the situation on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia, agreeing to continue efforts aimed at regional stability and prosperity. This comes amid North Korea's continued missile tests. On Sunday, Pyongyang carried out a launch drill involving long-range strategic cruise missiles over the West Sea, with leader Kim Jong-un observing on site, 4 days after it tested new surface-to-air missiles. North Korea has described the launches as part of efforts to strengthen its nuclear capabilities, rejecting the idea of denuclearization. Against this backdrop, Seoul has repeatedly emphasized the importance of regional coordination, including with Beijing, while encouraging the resumption of dialogue between Pyongyang and Washington. During his 4-day stay, the South Korean leader will hold a summit with President Xi Jinping, where security matters are likely to be raised. On top of that, South Korea's decision to pursue nuclear-powered submarines may be discussed. The two leaders are further expected to address economic relations following years of market uncertainty, following Beijing's unofficial sanctions on South Korean businesses and culture, after Seoul decided to adopt a US missile defense system against North Korea's growing capabilities. Yi and Xi last met in Gyeongju in November when the Chinese leader visited South Korea to attend the APEC leaders meeting. The upcoming talks in Beijing will mark their second summit in just over 2 months. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And South Korea's foreign ministry has said that the newly passed anti-fake news bill is not targeting any specific country or company. Now, the announcement on Thursday was a response to U.S. State Department concerns that the revised Information and Communications Network Act could negatively impact U.S.-based online platform businesses and undermine freedom of expression. While saying the purpose of the bill is to address social harms arising from changes in the digital environment, the ministry said it would continue communicating with Washington. The revised law was approved at a cabinet meeting on December 30th and is set to take effect in July. And the U.S. State Department also says Chinese military drills around Taiwan increase tensions unnecessarily, urging Beijing to halt its pressure campaign and return to dialogue. In a statement on Thursday, State Department Principal Deputy Spokesperson Tommy Pigott said China's military actions and rhetoric toward Taiwan are destabilizing and risk further escalation. He stated that Washington supports peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and opposes any unilateral attempt to alter the status quo by force or coercion. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory and has threatened to use force to bring the island under its control. Earlier this week, Beijing launched missiles and deployed fighter jets and naval vessels around Taiwan, saying the drills, codenamed Justice Mission 2025, simulated a blockade of major ports. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured after a fire swept through a bar in a Swiss alpine resort. The fire broke out in the early hours of Thursday as people gathered to celebrate the new year. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
At least 40 people have been killed and more than 100 others injured after a devastating fire swept through a crowded New Year's Eve bar in the Swiss Alpine resort town of Crans, Montana. The blaze broke out around 1:30 a.m. Thursday at a popular bar known as La Constellation as large crowds gathered to celebrate the start of the new year. Police say the venue was packed at the time. Investigators are still working to determine the cause of the fire. Swiss President Guy Parmelin described the incident as one of the worst tragedies the country has faced.
The circumstances that bring us together on this first day of the year in the capital of Valais are dramatic. The fire that occurred last night in a bar in Crans, Montana is one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known.
Crans, Montana is a major international ski destination, particularly busy during the holiday season, with 4 nationals among the dead and injured. A tourist from New York told AFP that he filmed bright orange flames pouring from the bar and saw people running and screaming in the darkness. Another eyewitness told Reuters that bystanders rushed to help, carrying injured people away from the fire to nearby bars and restaurants that remained open as temporary shelters, as many of the surviving victims faced cold-related shock after fleeing from intense heat into freezing air.
As mentioned before, the main, problem was the temperature shock from the heat inside to the cold outside. So one of the priorities was to get everyone warm. I'm talking the curtains of the restaurant was used.
Out of respect for the victims and their families, President Parmelin postponed his traditional New Year's address to the nation, which had been scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Authorities have also established a reception center and a dedicated helpline to support affected families. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Starting in the United States, where Zohran Mamdani took the oath of office as the first Muslim mayor of New York City. The 34-year-old Democratic Socialist is the city's youngest mayor in more than 100 years. He officially began his term with a midnight ceremony in a decommissioned subway station before a public inauguration on Thursday, led by Senator Bernie Sanders. Mamdani promised an audacious agenda focused on the working class, pledging free childcare and a rent freeze for 1 million households. While President Trump previously threatened to withhold federal funding, the two leaders held a cordial meeting in November last year, though deep policy disagreements remain. In Iran, protests over the country's struggling economy spread from Tehran to cities outside the capital on Thursday, and authorities reported at least 6 deaths among protesters and security forces. Demonstrators vented fury over record-high inflation and a plunging currency. Authorities confirmed the deaths of 5 protesters and 1 member of the Revolutionary Guard in the Lur ethnic regions. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian signaled a desire to negotiate, but the currency's drop to 1.4 million rials per dollar has left his government with few options. Security forces have already arrested dozens, accusing demonstrators of acting as foreign-linked rioters. Turning over to Amsterdam, a fire gutted the historic 19th century Vondelkerk church during a chaotic New Year's Eve in the Netherlands. High winds fanned the flames, causing the landmark's 50-meter tower to collapse while residents fled nearby homes. Beyond the blaze, accidents involving fireworks killed 2 people and seriously injured 3 others across the country. Police reported unprecedented violence and faced attacks with petrol bombs and fireworks being used in multiple cities. A nationwide ban on consumer fireworks takes effect in the Netherlands in 2026. Investing legend Warren Buffett officially stepped down on Wednesday as CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. The 95-year-old Oracle of Omaha leaves behind a staggering cumulative return of 6.1 million% since taking control in 1965. While he remains chairman of Berkshire, handpicked successor Greg Abel now takes the helm of the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Buffett's departure concludes an era for global finance defined by his unwavering belief in the American economy and his strict ethical newspaper test for business conduct. As he departs, Warren Buffett leaves investors with his most famous quote, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
The New Year's first workday commute began under a bitterly cold wave. Cold weather alerts remain in place across much of Korea, with many places dipping below -10°C this morning. Meanwhile, snow continues along the western coast of Jeolla-do and on Jeju Island, where heavy snow advisories have been issued. Mountainous regions on Jeju Island, as well as Ulleungdo and Dokdo, could see up to 15 centimeters of heavy snowfall. Now, along with the colder air, it is extremely dry and windy nationwide, with related weather alerts being issued. The risk of fire is very high, so please stay extra cautious. Daytime highs will remain quite chilly, with Seoul topping out at -3°. Daegu, Gwangju both getting up to 1° under mostly sunny skies in many places. And looking ahead, this weekend will be mostly sunny, and temperatures will gradually return to seasonal levels, bringing some relief from this cold. But for now, take extra care on this icy start to the new year.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.